And Christ, like a bunch, spoke to Pharisees and to those who were not going to listen, and those who didn't listen. And so you can't say that Christ was casting his pearls before swine at that point. When he's talking to these crowds, even when he feeds the 5,000, the 5,000 men, and then he says, you're not here for the bread of life. You're here because I filled your belly. Was he casting? Well, he wasn't casting his pearls before swine. There were those in their midst that were going to be believers and were believers.
So, brother, I thought we'd look at Matthew 7:6. Let me pull it up.
I got it pulled up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, read that for us real quick.
All right, Matthew 7:6. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces.
Yeah. Man, we have been asked this question a lot. I have.
Really?
We were asked again yesterday, and just, when is it too much?
When does this apply?
Yeah, when do we need to stop?
Yeah.
Because we go to pride events, we go to different events, and we proclaim, and people are like, aren't you casting your pearls before, the pearl of the gospel before the swine, effectively? And I thought we just...
It can definitely feel like that.
Yeah, it certainly can. And I've been in many conversations before with people where it was evident. Even yesterday in my message, we were talking about, there's genuine questions that people ask, and there's they're not yet believers, obviously, but they're genuine in the way they're asking a question. And then there's the guy that wants to debate and argue. And it's super defensive. It's not. And even that, I'm gonna engage that person for quite a while.
Sure.
But it comes a point in that conversation when you recognize that they're mocking the gospel, they're mocking Christ, not necessarily mocking me.
Yeah.
But when they start mocking the gospel, I wanna disengage from that conversation.
Yeah.
And I would use this verse as justification for that.
Well, I think my temptation with this verse has always been to explain it away in my head.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like in my mind, everyone needs the gospel, and we don't know who the elect are. So everyone needs to hear the gospel. So
Paul was a mocker.
Yeah.
Before he
exactly. You could give countless examples. Even in the list of Corinthians, when Paul lists all their sins, all those sins, such were some of you.
Right.
Like the gospel saves men from every sin.
Yeah.
And so my tendency has been that, in application anyway, that to just kind of explain this verse away and not even think about it. Does it even apply? Like, it means something.
Yeah.
Like, it means something to, when Christ says, do not give what is holy to dogs and do not throw your pearls before swine. Like, there is places where that applies.
Yeah.
There are times for that where it's just like, I'm shaking my dust off my feet because you're not listening and you don't care, and you're I know, but it's the same concept.
Okay.
Someone's refusing to listen. So the apostles were sent out 2 by 2. They were told to go into different cities, and if someone didn't receive them, if the city wouldn't listen to them,
shake off the dust.
But they did try initially, and if they didn't listen, then you shook the dust off your feet and you moved on.
Yeah, I think as we think through the scriptures and we think about. There are different times where obviously Jesus is speaking to hostile crowds. There was one crowd that wanted to kill him, and then he walks through them and walks away from them.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then there's other times where the apostles and stuff, they're speaking to hostile crowds, and they let this go on, and they're run out of a city or whatever. So we certainly have the warrant from a group standpoint to keep preaching.
Yeah.
And here's why I think that's why I would not apply this verse in the context of a pride event or something like that. And here, the main reason is, I don't know who's listening.
Yeah.
And you and I have many times had people after an event say, hey, we heard this, we saw this, whatever. Even so, the event I hate the most, and you know this, maybe these guys don't know that, is the Kentucky Derby.
The same for me.
I hate that. I don't want to go to that.
I have the hardest time motivating myself.
And the reason is people arrive drunk. And they're belligerent, and they hate you. They hate that you're there. And the mockery. Yeah. It's worse than a pride event.
Yeah.
And so, but even in those contexts, we've seen people have come to faith and have come after the fact, like the next year, 2 years, and say, hey, you were speaking, and I was with my buddy,
Hunter,
and he was
mocking.
He was mocking you, but I believe now, and I just want to thank you for being there. And you just melt, because I'm like, oh man, I was so close to not casting pearls before all these Kentucky swine, as it were. So the argument is, in a group setting, you don't know who's listening.
Sure.
And so I would argue that that's really not necessarily application for this. But I have been in one-on-one conversations where I'm talking to somebody, they're hardened, they're not listening, they will refuse in any way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk away from that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something. I'm going to give them the law.
Yeah.
Give them something hard for them to think about. Especially judgment day's coming. You're going to die. Those kind of things. And then I'm going to walk away. So the pearl, I guess, is the good news of what Christ has done. I'm going to say that, but I'm not going to just keep trying to woo them with that. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. Well, and always we have to remember who wrote this. We often point out that the guy who wrote, submit to authorities, Paul wrote about submitting to authorities, and so did Peter, but they were both fugitives from justice, as it were, at points in their lives.
Yeah.
So you have to recognize the context of who's saying. Christ said this.
Yeah.
And Christ, like a bunch, spoke to Pharisees and to those who were not going to listen, and those who didn't listen. And so you can't say that Christ was casting his pearls before swine at that point.
Yeah.
When he's talking to these crowds, even when he feeds the 5,000, the 5,000 men, and then he says, you're not here for the bread of life. You're here because I filled your belly.
Yeah.
Was he casting? Well, he wasn't casting his pearls before swine. There were those in their midst that were going to be believers and were believers. And so, I think this is a difficult verse to apply because it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. I think it requires wisdom to understand that.
Here's where I think people have applied this, and this may resonate with somebody. I think it's a cover for cowardice.
Okay.
Because you don't want to go into a hard situation, and so they
don't want to hear it anyway.
They don't want to hear that. I don't want to go to that. I don't want to cast the pearl of the gospel before the swine at this particular event or whatever like that. And if you're doing that, I think that's problematic because, like you pointed out in 1 Corinthians 6, such were some of us.
Yeah.
We were the swine, effectively.
Yeah.
But God has changed our nature. We now desire what we formerly hated.
Yes.
And so that's should be the testimony of every Christian is, unless they're raised in the church, that kind of stuff. But if you come from any kind of a non-Christian background, you hated the gospel at some point.
But if we're out doing evangelism, and and this has happened countless times, and I've got somebody who's genuinely trying to ask questions, and I've got somebody who's being belligerent and trying to make some point about Neanderthals or something, then I'm going to ignore this person and focus my time on the person who seems soft and ready to hear and listen. It's just what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So
I think obviously it depends on discernment in the moment. So my first argument is don't use this as an excuse not to engage the gospel in a hard situation where you might get mocked or you might
Christ and the apostles did do that.
Just go and just share the gospel and proclaim the gospel. And then secondly, you got to use righteous discernment. If people are listening and you got someone who's belligerent, that doesn't mean you walk away from this crowd.
Yeah.
Ray Comfort famously don't take my heckler.
Yeah.
The heckler draws the crowd.
Yeah.
All that
you're not
banter.
Actually talking to the heckler.
You're not.
It's the secondary conversation.
Correct. And that happens all the time when you're open air preaching. But even when you're not open air preaching, when you're having the conversation with someone, there's people that are watching.
Yeah.
That happens in the comment section. If you're having a little bit of a discussion moving through. So like right now, I don't know if you saw it, but Dusty Devers and John Harris both called Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and one other Hindu to repentance.
Is Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then, but this Hindu Facebook page picked that up, screenshot of that, and just was lambasting them. If Hindus had called for the conversion of Christians, you wouldn't hear the end of this, blah, 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 and it was blasting it. So, Christians are showing up in the comment section. I'm showing up in the comment sections, calling them to repentance, pointing out what Christ said about his exclusivity.
Because you don't know who's reading.
Yeah, and so there's, who's reading that?
Yeah.
The guy that I'm actually engaging with, he's belligerent.
Yeah.
And I actually like that because now it gives me an opportunity for further clarity, for further gospel, those kind of things, and people are watching that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let that happen. As long
You're
as
not actually talking to the guy running that account.
No. Yeah, I care about it. Hopefully he comes to faith too, but it's more about people that are watching.
Yeah.
So whoever you are in that context, look at the context.
Yeah.
And if it's a coworkers and stuff like that, and you're having somebody that's hardened, but you've got coworkers that are watching and listening. The other thing is that we give courage to weak Christians when we are when we stand up for righteousness. Yes. So I'd be slow to apply this in a group situation.
Yeah. Well, and you never know who's watching. I mean, I just met a guy that goes to another church here in Shelbyville that would not publicly support us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They wouldn't publicly say we're with Ref Church.
Right.
And yet this member who goes there, me and him were talking. He was like, "Hey, I just want you to know all that library stuff that went down." Yeah. He said, "I am behind you 100%.
Where are you, bro? Come
100%. So anyway, and he means it too. So he actually, Anyway, I won't give away his identity.
Hey, once we're offline, let me know who that was.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. But it was very encouraging to me because he was just like, "Y'all are 100% right," and he even had the opportunity. Somebody was, kind of lambasting us a little bit, and he was like, "Wait a minute, you don't know what happened."
Yeah.
And so, because he followed the whole thing, and he went through it with them, and they were like, "Well, obviously they should have done that." Yeah. Like when people actually know what happened, they're like, "Whoa, of course they're right," So anyway.
We don't want this to be about that, but people do. They pick up one little bit of information, they run with it, thinking that,
But and maybe this is help me think through this. Maybe this is an incorrect application of this. But one of the things that I don't want to do is be wasting my time on people that are determined to be our enemies. Mm-hmm. So we have, countless people have reached out to us individually or us together or the church or whatever, they're wanting to do these things that they're wanting to go do evangelism. They're wanting help in, tracts or signs or how do I evangelize? How do I do this? How do I countless messages from people. Thank you for your boldness. Basically they're saying, I want to be bold with this stuff. Yeah. And I want to spend my time on those people, not on the people that are determined to think the worst of us, not on the people that are determined to see everything in a negative light and be our enemy. Because we have those. Yeah. And so, I don't know. I don't want to call those people swine. Some of them are good brothers. But, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I wouldn't apply
it's a broad
this verse to
application.
that there for sure. But anyways.
Just in general, I want to be careful where I'm spending my time.
Yeah, no, I think that's wise. Yeah. All right, well, I think we've helped to answer this question. And so we'll call this one. Thanks for tuning in on this one.
God bless.